What's going on, Husker Nation? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we're covering Jack linebackers, and yesterday we covered middle linebackers and outside linebacker. Jack is kind of its own position. It's a little different than a middle linebacker and an outside linebacker. They're more of a true edge rusher in Nebraska's scheme, whether they're lined up on the line of scrimmage to give you a four-man front, or if they're lined up on the second level in a three-man front. At the end of the day, their primary objective is get to the quarterback. Now, Nebraska brought in Desan Mcola, previously at Indiana, where he played like a safety linebacker spot. Then he went to Oklahoma last season, where he didn't really have a spot. He played, he just didn't really have a position. They called it something like the cheetah, I think is what they called it, but it was a combination of a bunch of different things. D-end, edge rusher, oversized safety and coverage. That's why he left Oklahoma. He said it himself. I've got one more year to prove I can play in the NFL. I need to be at one position. I need to stop playing all these different roles on the defense. And he wanted to play at the line of scrimmage, which is where the Jack linebacker primarily will be played at. Now, he has the option to drop back into coverage. He did play safety in high school and a little bit at Indiana. His primary objective, though, is going to be setting the edge, holding the edge, containing the edge, getting to the quarterback, things of that nature, like a true edge player would do. At 6'5", 235 pounds, he has the ability to be a game wrecker at Nebraska. We haven't seen it in totality throughout his career. That's the one area of concern. Was that partially scheme at Oklahoma? Yeah, probably. Part of it is also he was injured last year at Oklahoma, I believe for the first probably 4 or 5 games. But if you look back on the Oklahoma game versus Alabama. I think it was Alabama game when they upset him. Yeah, that was Alabama. He made so many plays on the edge, blowing up an offensive tackle, sprinting out and covering a running back in the flat, making big hits, filling the gaps, shedding blocks. He did a really, really good job in that Oklahoma game. And that Oklahoma game gave you a little bit of insight into what he can be if he is at one position. That's where he's going to be at Nebraska. Can he, this is a big question too, can he continue that success that he had at the end of last season at Oklahoma and carry it to a full season at Nebraska? If there's one area Nebraska needs help, we talked about it in our defensive line video, is with the pass rush. Now, Coach John Butler did say that one of the 3 things they are doing very well is blitzing. Well, that's pretty much what Desan Mcola is going to do as the Jack linebacker. The other Jack linebacker is going to be Willis Mahhei. Like I said in yesterday's video about middle linebackers and outside linebackers, don't really give a shit who starts. They're going to play a lot of snaps. Desan Mcola and Willis Mahhei are going to share snaps. Willis is too good to keep off the field, just like Vincent Shavers is too good to keep off the field. Willis Mahhei specialized more so in run defense and pass rush last season. He saw limited snaps early, and then, if you recall that Ohio State game, Principal Uman Mielen would rather screw around and not give effort. And so what they do, they pulled his ass out, and they brought in Willis Mahhei, and he made a huge impact in that game. Multiple QB pressures, multiple times where he'd get after the quarterback, force him to escape the pocket. He did that from that moment on, was a consistent playmaker on Nebraska's defense. He does some things that are really not going to show up in the stat sheet. But we saw again in that Boston College Pinstripe Bowl game, like we saw with Vincent Shavers, we saw what Willis Mahhei could be as well as the Jack linebacker. And from all accounts, he and Desan are balling out right now in spring. Absolutely balling out. Nebraska has 2 legit dudes at the Jack linebacker, and one of them's only a sophomore, Willis Mahhei. Desan's got the one final year. But who's behind Desan and Willis that we need to have our eye on? Maverick Non is a redshirt sophomore. coming in at 6'4", 240 pounds, really good size. He could have his hand in the dirt. He played defensive end in high school. In Nebraska, I believe his true freshman year, they kind of had him bouncing back and forth from the defensive line to the linebacker room. He has found a home at Jack linebacker. He's also healthy. Staying healthy is the most important thing. The best asset a player can have is availability. That's your best ability, is availability. Maverick is now available. Can he make some strides going into his redshirt sophomore year? I don't think he's going to play a ton. I think he'll play a lot early against Houston Christian, the directional schools that Nebraska will play. Watch out what he does in those games. Watch out what he does in the spring game next week. Like we talked about yesterday, and Coach Rule talked about, that spring game is going to be the third, fourth, fifth string guys. Those guys that are on the roster from number 80 or so to 110, 115. Those are the guys that spring game is for. And it's actually important to watch that game because you're going to see some dudes separate themselves and either make the 105 or get left off the 105. I'm not saying Maverick Non is going to get left off the 105. He just needs to start putting things together now that he's went through a whole season healthy. He's went through the offseason now healthy. He's been healthy for about a year and a half. Now, the good thing for Maverick is it's not like Nebraska has to rush him into playing time. With Desan and Willis taking primarily the snaps, most of the snaps during the season, God forbid one of them gets hurt, Maverick will be able to play probably 10 to 12, maybe 13, at max 15 snaps a game on average. That's perfectly fine as a redshirt sophomore. That's perfectly fine for a guy that's still developing. His best skill is his pass rushing ability. Can he drop in coverage? Yeah. Is he going to? Probably not a whole lot. He'll be part of like a NASCAR package similar to what we had last year. That would be a role or a package he could fulfill where you could have him and, say, Desan on the field at the same time. But I don't anticipate him having a huge role. Same goes for Jordan Ochoa. Now, we saw him flash in the one game he played and the 8 snaps he played, and we make a lot out of 8 snaps. But he's transitioned now to the second level. He was a defensive end, and now he's a jack linebacker. He's a redshirt freshman. He probably won't see the field a ton, but I think there's been multiple people that have heard the same thing about Jordan. He's performing very well early in his career, especially after changing positions. He wasn't a highly recruited guy either. He had some late interest from other schools, and Nebraska swooped in with a gray shirt deal, said, we're going to have you pay your way your first year, and then you're going to be on scholarship going into year 2. Well, now he's on scholarship. What can he do? He has a chance to make a move up this depth chart. Him and Maverick are kind of neck and neck right now for that third string jack position. Can he overtake Maverick? That's still to be determined. One other person I get a lot of questions about, and it's a true freshman who we all think was probably going to play quite a bit when he originally committed and signed with Nebraska, and that's Desan Mcola. Now, Desan hurt his shoulder at the end of his senior season in high school, and he had off-season surgery, so he hasn't even been practicing. He should be healthy come summer. At the very latest, he'll be ready to go come fall. I don't think he's going to play this year, and it's just because Nebraska has at least 2 really good options at jack and 2 guys battling that are relatively good for that third spot. There is no rush to get Desan Mcola to play, which is good. You don't want to continue to be in these situations where you're forced to play freshmen. Now, some of them are damn good. Willis Mahhei was pretty damn good as a true freshman. Vincent Shavers was pretty damn good as a true freshman. Ja'Cory Barney, pretty damn good. Dylan Raiola, pretty damn good. But they all have that little lull at some point in their freshman season. You don't want to consistently rely on freshmen, especially at a position like jack, where you're going up against grown men on the offensive line, guys that are 6'6", 320 pounds. They've been in college for 47 years because this is the new era of college football where everyone wants to stay in school forever for some odd reason. I'm not worried that he's not going to play right away. I like that he's not going to play right away. He needs to gain some weight too. He's 6'3", good size. He's about 210 pounds though. He probably needs to be playing. If you look at the guys we just talked about, Mcola's 235, Mahhei's 235, Noonan's 240, Ochoa's 250. He's at least 25 pounds underweight. He needs to bulk up and he needs to do it right. Now, could he be healthy come summer and fall and get up to 220? Absolutely. Could he see some early action, like a 4-game red shirt against the teams that Nebraska should beat by 30? Absolutely. Do I expect Dawson Merritt to be a big factor for Nebraska next season? No, I don't. And that's okay. Before we get out of here, we need to recognize our top members, our top subscribers. Here we go. Jesus Rivera, thank you so much. I see you on like every video commenting, so thank you so much, Jesus Rivera. Dion Pryor and Alexander the Great and Terrible. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel and your consistent engagement with the channel. We greatly appreciate it. But other than that, that's all I got for today. Stay tuned because tomorrow we are talking corners, and there's a surprise player that could potentially take over the opposite corner of Sierra Wright. Stay tuned. Have a good one, everybody.